Steeler fans, welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. This is Steel Curtain Network editor Dave Schofield coming at you Tuesday night, just after 9 o'clock. It's not even 9:05, and we are rolling. Where else would you rather be, Steeler fans? And with me, as always, except when he's not, like when he's at Acrisure Stadium and things of that nature, is my big brother, Rich. Rich, how's it going?
Yeah. Hey, you know what? It's going well.
On, you gotta do it. Come on.
You know
clear the sinuses.
You know how you get mad when I try to prompt you to do the roar?
But it's not tradition, though. It's not tradition.
Jeremiah Yoder would have it be tradition
okay.
on our show.
All right.
Well, okay, we will. Okay, and I took a small breath because I'm sorry. It's preseason. Preseason.
It's still the preseason.
Small breath. Okay.
But you were there for this one, Rich.
I know I was there for this one, but I also had fun last night watching and laughing at that terrible purple team. You know, see their record streak of 24 straight preseason games, one come to an end. And I'm just like, big whoop-de-doo. Who cares if you win the preseason? That means nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You don't. So. I said it at the end of. Did I say I mentioned on the preview? I don't know if it said preview, but post-game show, whatever it was. I already made reference to the wrong show once already, but I said it on the post-game show. And my final thoughts is, you know, winning these games really does mean nothing because you don't win championships in the preseason. All you do is prepare to win championships in the preseason, and that's what the Steelers are doing. So unless you can prepare to have this roll into the regular season, then it's not ultimately important. But we're going to talk about that, especially looking at the game going forward. But before we do that, we've got to look back because the Steelers were at Acrisure Stadium. You were at Acrisure Stadium.
Yes,
for everything. And boy, you don't get much better than what you got from the Steelers in a preseason game. I don't know that I've ever seen that.
The first three quarters were just total domination. And actually, I even told Renee at halftime, I was like, just call it here. I've seen what I need to see.
Yep.
You know, whatever happens in the second half doesn't matter. I saw all I need to see from the team. Now, in the second half, I'm watching, you know, that's kind of funny. You know, in the first half, I'm watching the team. In the second half, I'm watching players, guys that could be your end of the roster kinds of guys. So.
Yeah, and that's honestly, that's what you do as a Steelers fan when it comes to that part of the preseason. So many people, I feel like I'm a broken record now. Some people are like, oh, it's the preseason. How can you watch these guys? You know, they might make the practice squad. If not, they're just going to be on the street. You know what? You're still forming that. This is where guys, the difference between squeezing on the 53, landing on the practice squad, or out of the league. I mean, remember, there's been years where the Steelers have signed their practice squad almost primarily from their 90-man roster. And there have been years where they have gone way outside the organization, and half the guys or more weren't in training camp with them because they didn't feel like they were worth keeping. That's what you're looking for there. I can't watch preseason games intently that's not the Steelers. I'll be honest with you. I flipped over to that ugly purple team playing last night just to see what the score was. And it was just before halftime, and the Commanders had just scored a touchdown, and they hadn't even kicked the extra point yet. So I assume the touchdown stood. I just know they hadn't kicked the extra point when I flipped over. But I can't sit there and do that all that intently with teams that I'm not highly invested in. Now, when it comes to the regular season, if it's an NFL football game, I'll watch the whole thing. I'll watch every part of it that I can. Yep. But when it comes to our beloved Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm looking exactly like you are. I'm looking at individual players trying to have things stand out as the game gets later and later. and later. Rich, I do want to say one thing. There was a surprising roster move yesterday. The Steelers brought in a wide receiver, a linebacker. Not really going to talk about them, but it was the Steelers waived injured 2 wide receivers in both Hakeem Butler and Cody White. You have some thoughts on that? Those were 2 guys that, were in the mix of before training camp started of who'd make the 53-man roster. And now both of them, they both cleared waivers. So now the Steelers have the opportunity to reach an injury settlement with them, or they'll go on IR for the season. I don't think either one of them have an injury that's like of the season-ending variety. And with split contracts where they're only going to be making half of what they would otherwise if they could land on a 53, I wouldn't be shocked if we're looking at injury settlements for these guys.
Yeah.
Did you have any thoughts? I mean, did you realize Hakeem Butler did not dress for the game? That apparently,
I was listening pregame show somewhere and saw that he wasn't going to play. Where was? Oh, because walking through the stadium, they're playing the pregame show from the radio over the speakers throughout as you're walking throughout on the concourse and outside the stadium. And I was actually out there and heard Charlie Batch say that he was in sweats and wasn't gonna play. Yep. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where, and I tried to make sure I explain this, just because they weren't claimed and they revert to the Steelers injured reserve doesn't mean that there can't be an injury settlement. They have the 5 days. And then once that happens, then it's if they completely revert to that or not. If they were seriously injured and going to miss the entire season, for example, like a Corey Trice, even like Alfonso Graham, then there's really no reason to do an injury settlement. An injury settlement is for players that aren't as injured and feel that they will be able to return in a certain amount of time. And then that way they can, and they get paid for that amount of time up until they would go. So that's how that works. So I thought I'd bring that up since that happened. Apparently, maybe even like Cody White potentially got injured during the game, and it wasn't even enough that Coach Tomlin knew about it. I think he was trying to maybe play through something.
Can we talk
something
about
like
the game?
that.
You're talking too much on this that I look at as a whole bunch of nothing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when we look at this game coming up against Atlanta, it's all about shaping the 53-man roster. These 2 guys going on injured reserve, that's huge for the 53-man roster when it comes to that position group. It's basically all but settled now. The only question is how many players are going to keep, 5 or 6. But that pretty much, almost locks in like a gun row. Who was the most targeted wide receiver on Saturday night? I don't know if you noticed that or not.
Did not.
Yeah, because they really spread the ball
honestly,
around. There were the 3 targets.
Look, there was stuff going on in the second half. On the second half, I fine-tuned my watching down to offensive and defensive line.
Yeah,
I'm serious.
And you did. And for those of you, I don't know if you watch the game on replay. I don't know if you watch the game live on NFL Plus. If you were in the Pittsburgh area and could see it, if you found another way to watch it that might be of questionable means, or if you were at the stadium. If you were on NFL Plus watching it, there was a place where you got the 3 a.m. network television screen. That's just the different colored lines that would normally just have the beep, when you were kids, when you stayed up late until the TV shut off at night after they, play the national anthem and the American flag, and then it went to that screen. We got that screen for a couple plays. Well, for a good 30 seconds. But luckily you had already told me what happened. Yeah. It was a Kendrick Green hold because you were giving me all kinds of Kendrick Green updates from the stadium.
Because I'll tell you what, because I focused it on him in particular because I thought he played terrible against Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really watching, say, okay, Do we bounce back? Do we look better? What's going on? It was more of the same. And by the way, I'm with you from your Pro Football Focus score.
Oh my God. How did they give him? You start with 60.0. If you play one snap and basically do nothing great or nothing bad, you get a 60.0. How does Kendrick Green score a 60.1?
He shouldn't.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
well, no. Here's how. Okay, because again, you got to remember all these things are subjective. So, what?
Yep.
The person watching and scoring Kendrick Green was saying, "Oh, he kept his shoulders square. He held his block. Okay, that's a win." Not realizing that Kendrick Green was sitting on the quarterback's lap when the play was over.
Yeah, it's almost like they did, and you can tell by the scores. I mean, if I look into the more advanced stats, which I wouldn't be able to bring up here and still see all the individual scores, they did not fault Kendrick Green for that snap,
and that was just wrong.
Nobody
on the offense was ready for that snap except Kendrick Green.
Which tells you it's not like everyone was ready to go except the quarterback. No, that was 100% on him. I said it on the post-game show. I feel like I know what he was trying to do. He just didn't do it well. The guy, there was one of the defensive linemen that moved on the line. I don't know that he moved enough to even come into the neutral zone, but Kendrick Green tried to snap the ball in order to catch him in the neutral zone. But the thing is, you even look at that, he's not unabated to the quarterback, so it's a free play. The quarterback's not paying attention. I mean, imagine if somebody gets hurt diving on the ball.
Yeah.
All because you were trying to catch the guy offsides and he wasn't even offsides. So in a preseason game, I think he tried to outsmart himself, but then he doesn't shake those kind of things off. There's just so much. Right. I mean, and remember when the Steelers drafted Kendrick Green, I was high on Kendrick Green, not because I felt that he was something that I personally saw. I was high on Kendrick Green because I felt that the Steelers find these players that others might not see in them, what the Steelers see in them, and can do something with them. So to me, I was all in on the Steelers' evaluation. And that's why they waited for Green. They wanted him more in round 3 than they wanted Creed Humphrey in round 2. Yeah, that was a big mistake. Although I no regrets about Pat Freiermuth, but I mean, really, that was just a huge mistake once you actually see his play out there on the field.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying because it's like, you're saying you were hyped up thinking the Steelers probably went out and found something. You mean kind of like how everybody right now is saying how the Steelers really found something other folks weren't seeing in Nick Herbig?
Yeah. Like those kind of things. The diamond in the rough they pull out in the 7th round back in the day, and Kelvin Beachum, where they can find, getting Ramon Foster as an undrafted free agent, right? Where they can find these, either specifically with the line or just some other times where they're like, hey, this is someone that people are going to write off for other reasons, and we think they could really be good at this position. I still think the biggest thing that two big things hurt Kendrick Green. One, he was given no time to learn because he got thrust in there because they had no other choice because of they couldn't sign anyone because of the reduction in the salary cap. Then even Ben Roethlisberger saying it out there about him going to guard, that was a huge mistake because he's not good enough there. If he's going to be anywhere, it's going to be center, and he's proven that he can't be there either. We don't want to spend the whole episode just knocking on Kendrick Green.
Oh, by the way, Jeremiah Yoder said that Chewbacca should play center.
Chewbacca should play center.
Although I will tell you, Jeremiah Yoder, Chewbacca is not a center. Mm-hmm. Chewbacca is either a tight end or a defensive end.
the real Chewbacca. The real fake Chewbacca, not the fake Chewbacca.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so it was Rich, I keep saying it. I mean, you couldn't have asked more for the start of this game. I honestly, The only thing that maybe would have been better, I love that they busted the 62-yard touchdown with Jaylen Warren on the, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, sixth play. It was on the sixth play.
Sixth play.
Right? I would have, the only thing that might have actually been better is instead of one big 60-yard touchdown, maybe 3 20-yard plays. Because that would have at least made you think, hey, they're doing it over and over. I'm not saying that had to be better, but it potentially could have been to show that they moved the ball better.
Oh
man,
I'm telling you though, when you go back and look, I mean, I think it was KT Smith put in one of his articles. He put the clip of that run.
Yeah,
and it was a good clip because you could really see where the blocking came. Oh my goodness, was that play ever blocked phenomenally? Okay.
Oh, I know.
I'm going to bring up another play that was blocked phenomenally. And I commented on one of the stories on Steel Curtain Network about it because somebody said, it came up on the Calvin Austin punt return.
Your sign just fell down.
I saw.
Okay.
It's no longer Shannon's birthday.
It's not Shannon's birthday. You don't need that up there anymore.
And that is, folks were saying, oh, well, that was blown coverage. No, that was not blown coverage on that punt. Actually, as I was watching this guys coming down the field, the coverage was correct. Like guys were filling the proper lanes. We got over, laid the blocks. I was like, as long as there's no flag, I kept looking and none of the rest reached for a flag. And by that point in time, then I'm jumping up and yelling, go, 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 And that was just another play that was actually blocked very, very well.
Yeah, the punt return.
Yes.
Yeah.
Blocked very well.
Yeah, and you just, it goes to show how it all has to come together. Both of those plays are great examples of how so many different things come together. Let's talk about the Jaylen Warren run there for a little bit. And I know we're still going to get to the game coming up, and we'll get to that in the second half. We're still recapping the glory that was the Steelers taking it to the Buffalo Bills, especially ones-on-ones. But the blocking up front was great. Isaac Seumalo is everything that he was sold to be coming.
He is as advertised.
He's as advertised. Okay.
Yes.
Dan Moore Jr. comes down, makes a good block. James Daniels, Mason Cole. I mean, the only one we're not talking about on that block really on the line is Chuks Okorafor because he was so far removed from the way. Not that he didn't do a good job on that. He was on the other side of the line. You weren't even paying attention to him. You didn't have to look and see what he did. But that blocking right there set up a big play where he got free. That still doesn't give you 62 yards.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That just gives you the first anywhere from generally 5 to 15.
Yeah.
Is what you're blocking up front.
It was going to be a 10 to 14 yard run.
Yeah.
Until Deontay Johnson did such a great job on his guy.
Yes, because that's just going to say that's so much more coming together.
And Jaylen Warren accelerated and outran the safety. So the big guys up front got the first 10 or so yards. And then Deontay Johnson and Jaylen Warren then finished the play.
Yes. Yeah. And it's all these different things coming together. If it's, Jeff Hartman talked about it on Let's Ride. If that's Najee Harris running, that's still going to be a nice gain. But it's probably not going to go for a touchdown because he doesn't quite have that open field gear. Burst, we'll say. Yeah, the extra gear that you would get from Jaylen Warren. And it's not a knock on Najee Harris at all. It's just who one is, who the other is. And that's why that was there. But if Deontay Johnson's not there making a block down the field, then it's not going to matter.
Look, everybody can sit. I actually sat and think about this sitting in the stadium. Why? Because, new seats this year. Got to get used to who's sitting around me. So let's see, the folks in front of me. I cannot remember her name for the life of me right now, but his name was, I want to say it was Todd. And then a couple old guys. I mean, talking like probably older than our parents.
Oh, wow.
Okay, sit behind me. And I want to get on them because they were knocking on, after the Jalen Warren run, knocking on Najee and say, and I just want to say, you do understand that Jalen Warren and Najee Harris is like the bus and Fast Willie Parker.
I mean, maybe not as much of a contrast. I don't think Najee is as much of a bruiser as the bus was, and I don't think.
But you understand what I'm saying?
They're not the same running back.
Had their place within the system.
Yeah,
and both running backs for the Steelers currently, Jalen Warren, Najee Harris, they have their place within the system.
Yeah, Jeff talked about it right, where it's like, what were we saying 2 years ago? I mean, even when it was before Najee Harris, even when it was James Conner, like the Steelers really need that other running back, that D'Angelo Williams. That was really the last time, the most, not it's not the best example. It's the most recent example of where the Steelers had that other running back that could go out there and get the job done at basically the same level. You couldn't do the same things because they were different players, but basically the same level as the other guy in front of them. And now, as soon as the Steelers get that, people want to complain that it should be that guy, not the other guy. That's one of those things that I still think just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that you're complaining that, the Steelers only have one running back. Think about when Najee Harris went down 2 years ago in that final game against the Ravens, missed part of the game in the middle, and had to come back in at the end for the Steelers to salvage that and make it to the postseason in his rookie year. And we're like, oh my goodness, it just goes to show that if Najee Harris is out, the Steelers are in trouble. Then last year, Jalen Warren came in and as a rookie showed that he was a better backup that they had seen. Now he appears to be the guy that is making a jump in year two. But that doesn't mean that there's not value in both players. There's so much value in both players. And who cares? Like Jeff said it. Who cares who gets the first snap? Let both guys do what they do best. But whatever you do, don't telegraph what you're doing based on which guy's on the field. That's all it takes.
There you go. That's it.
I love it. So for everyone who wants to talk about it should be this guy over this guy, you are talking about a position where more than one guy plays. That's like saying, it should be Deontay Johnson over George Pickens, or most people would say George Pickens over Deontay Johnson. Guess what? You have more than one, and that's even a position where you have them more on the field at one time. Even like, say, tight end and things of that nature. You can have other options that are going to be doing, and especially as brutal as that position is in the NFL. But we talked about the Jalen Warren run, got too much into the Jalen Warren Najee Harris stuff, but that's a big thing with Steelers Nation now. To me, that's one of those, the Najee Harris talk to me is likely going to be under this category. I almost did this as a this might be next week's topic that we talk about. So I'll tease it. Training or preseason stories that we'll forget about in October.
Yeah.
Preseason stories that we will forget about in October. For me, 2 years ago, TJ Watt not playing a single practice up until September because of the new contract thing. He comes out and tears up, and I got to a point that season, I'm like, unless I think back, I didn't even think about TJ Watt not playing the entire preseason and that whole thing. There's going to be things like that we just don't look at. And maybe that might be next week's episode or not, but we got to see how this last game plays out. I also you mentioned the punt return. I said how it has to all come together. You have to have the right guy at the right speed, making the right decisions with the right blocking. And that play was not designed like most of them aren't, for him to break it the whole way because he wasn't back there improvising. Most punt returns that are returned for a touchdown is because of complete improvisation and everything. A guy's running the other way, and that's why everyone's pursued the other way. And it's just a lot of them work out that way, and they're nice and they're exciting, but that's really why it's set up in the way it was. This one was a play that was set up to get the maximum return, and that's what they did. I mean, he didn't have anyone really to slow him down until you had the punter and other safety people.
Yeah.
That was all that was there. So
Thomas Riley asked me, how fast did Calvin Austin look in person? Calvin Austin, it's not, I want to say, I almost want to call it a sneaky fast because it doesn't appear to be blazing speed. He is not Darryl Green.
Yeah.
Okay. What he has is a really quick burst and then the ability to just pull away.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's not, it doesn't, I want to say it doesn't flash the same way. So as I call it, it's like he is almost sneaky fast, like faster than what he even looks. Yeah. Here's what made that play so great. He caught the ball. He paused for a moment, watched the block set. And what really made that play was when he saw the blocks set, he then had already made his mind and shifted into that gear and hit the hole hard. And it was hitting that initial set of blocks perfectly that set up the whole return.
Yeah, I'm going to bring something up because it's where I'm going to explain something that I said that we actually said the same thing without using different words, but by using different words. This is Steel Dog 88 says, right, Dave, but they also need the vision to see it as well. The word you put in all caps there, Steel Dog 88, vision. This is something that with things going on with me and my family is something I have to dive into a lot. There's a difference between vision and sight. Just like there's a difference between hearing and listening. Vision is the mental process of what you see. And that's why vision is the exact right term there. Because I didn't say vision, I just said, and you need to make the correct decision, which is because you got to see it and then process it properly in your brain quickly and do it. And that's what we saw.
While you're on the whole term of vision,
yeah,
I want to go to another area of the game that I'd like to talk about real quick.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. All right. And to me, it's the way I want to talk about vision, highlighting the differences between Kenny Pickett and Mitchell Trubisky.
Okay.
Okay. Mitchell Trubisky missed 2 big plays to Darnell Washington.
I heard about one that I didn't even catch on
one
TV.
of which, in my opinion, would have been a touchdown of about 60 yards.
Oh, okay.
And I think it has to do with what I think is Mitchell Trubisky doesn't have the same vision that Kenny Pickett does. Mitchell Trubisky drops back. At the time, Washington was in the right. He was off the line. He wasn't fully out in the slot. He was off the line. I say a couple bodies off the end of the right side of the line. Okay. He comes up and runs. I don't know if it was a straight seam route or a skinny post or something like that. Okay. But he's coming up the center of the field. The coverage on him is to the outside because they know they're going to have safety help over the top. Mitchell Trubisky's first read was left, and he looked hard to the left, and the safety bit big time. And he didn't throw the ball there because the safety bit, right? What is a quarterback processing that vision, to have real vision, then it's not just to recognize that and not throw the ball there, but to quickly see that, recognize, don't throw the ball there. throw it right behind and take advantage of where you got that guy out of position.
Yeah.
And Mitchell Trubisky did not throw the ball there.
Mm-hmm.
He continued to hold and continued to look even further left and did not take advantage of the fact that he moved that safety with his eyes. I turned to Renee and I said, if that's Kenny Pickett, that play is a touchdown to Darnell Washington.
Probably.
And to me, the difference in the two there is the difference between seeing
and vision. Sight and vision are not the same. They're very close, but they're not exactly the same. So yeah, and that's one thing I'm really liking about Kenny Pickett so far in his few snaps in the preseason. Is his vision.
Well, Kenny Pickett, you want to go back and talk about where he had the great vision and it quickly calculated into what he did on the field was the touchdown to Freiermuth.
The Pat Freiermuth, absolutely. That's what I'm talking about too. He that was the infamous throw him open.
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw the coverage here, instantly knew, deliver the ball here, gives my guy a chance, boom, done, touchdown.
Yeah.
Or as I should say, touchdown.
Touchdown. Okay, I'm going to say there's so much about the Steelers' reserve offense that is so difficult to evaluate. Even the quarterback play, somewhat, but especially the running backs, when you were not getting much from the Steelers' reserve offensive line.
Correct.
You know, Broderick Jones was in, and then he was out for a series, and then was back in. I thought he was doing all right. Doing pretty well. And like I said, he's the one who gets blamed on that sack when really it was Kendrick Green that got pushed back into Rudolph, which messed up everything and how the guy could then finish off. Yes, Broderick Jones didn't finish off his block, but
correct.
I don't even think Mason Rudolph, because was it Rudolph? I'm pretty sure it was Rudolph. Not Trubisky.
Yes, I think it was.
I could be wrong, but that's what I'm going with. I don't think he even still has the ball to be sacked on that one with Broderick Jones if it wasn't for Kendrick Green and what he gave up so fast. So lots of good stuff there. You want to hit some – I mean, you know what? We're going to go ahead and take our break. We'll come back. We'll hit a little bit of defense. But part of this is leading up to talking about what did the Steelers really have to play for this Thursday against the Falcons. There's some key stuff we're going to bring up. So if you're here with us, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter – we'll be back. We're just going to be gone a couple seconds. For those of you on the audio side, we'll be back right after these messages. All right, Steelers fans, we are back. We are rolling on, man. Yes, part of it's looking forward because the Steelers play. I mean, my goodness, in 48 hours from now, they'll probably be around halftime or maybe starting the second half. And 48 hours from right now, this is great. This is crazy. But you were there, so that's part of the reason why we want to talk about this performance. What I think is getting overlooked in what the offense did, the first unit offense in this game against the Bills, is that what ultimately set all this up and the Calvin Austin great punt return was a 3-and-out by the Steelers defense in the first time they were out there, where all the players were out there for the whole thing. That was about as good as you could ask the defense to start.
Yes.
You know, 3rd and short, and they keep the Bills from converting.
Let me tell you, something I was seeing all game from the first team on down when it came to the defensive line was especially your defensive linemen doing, your Cam Haywards, your
wasn't Larry O. He was the in play.
No. Frodo, as I like to call it.
Fahoko.
A lot of those guys, just Isaiah Loudermilk, those guys doing what they needed to do and occupying linemen so that playmakers could make plays.
And you know what? When I do PFF scores and report them, that's the one thing that drives me nuts is defensive linemen don't get credit for occupying multiple players. They just look at that as being a loss on that play because they want them to make a play every play. That's not their job. That's not their job most of the time, especially the Steelers defense. Occupy guys so the other guys can come make plays.
Plug up holes, occupy guys.
Yeah. Don't get moved out of your spot. Yep.
And from the defensive line standpoint, because I told you I spent most of the second half watching offensive and defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
The defensive line was, not getting pushed off the ball, not getting pushed around, occupying multiple players. I mean, the corner that made the TJ Watt interception.
Oh, Shannon Sullivan. Yeah.
Yes.
Did you see me? Well, since I did knee jerk for you because you're at the game, that's what I said in knee jerk was that's the way that TJ Watt gets interceptions at the line of scrimmage, docking them up and then catching them.
He makes that play coming off. There wasn't a lineman on there that was prepared to block him. So the quarterback had to throw the ball when he did, which I think the quarterback at that time was still Barkley. Had to throw the ball there because he was coming unblocked. But if you really go back and look at that, you'll see that the defensive line, there were a couple guys that were tying up more than one blocker. And you're like, wow, and nobody could break, but they couldn't break off and try to go out there and pick up that corner. Why? Because the defensive linemen were already getting pushed.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It just, I don't want to say the defense right now is already set up, and not just first, but even beyond the first string. They are really playing as a unit.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not just individual. It's everybody doing their job. Because if everybody does their job, somebody, the playmaker, somebody somewhere is going to win their matchup big and make a play.
Yeah.
But, TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith can't do that if they're able to double team there every play because your guys on the inside don't demand ever having a double team on.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much from this defense. I mean, my goodness, we could talk. We'll get to Mr. Herbig in a second, but Mr. Highsmith, how many times are you okay having your outside linebacker covering Stephon Diggs across the middle and he comes through with the pass defense? I couldn't get over that. No wonder you're trying to throw the ball there because that's your mismatch.
Yep.
Alex Highsmith says no. I like that. But to see Nick Herbig do what he did in week 1, but do it in week 2, starting in the second defensive drive, not after halftime. He was on the field for the second defensive drive, not for the whole thing, but for part of it, to come out there and do his thing against the ones. And that sack where he got that amazing bend on the ghost move. Oh, yeah.
So I think I put in the live chat in the post game show 3 things I took away from this game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the first of which we already covered. Kendrick Green sucks. Yeah, in my opinion, he can go.
Yeah.
All right. Number 2, Nick Herbig. He is for real. Seeing it in person, he is for real. He is not just up there to learn and play some special teams and get a few snaps. He is there and will be a rotational piece on the defensive ends.
Mm-hmm.
So, he is. Third thing I saw that I really like, since we're on the defense, I'll bring it up too. I think Elijah Riley should make this squad.
Yeah. I haven't made
squad. I know
as a safety. People keep talking about him as a cornerback. He's a safety. He's your reserve safety, but you'll play. He can play in the slot. You don't have to be a cornerback. He's a defensive back. That's who he is. But yeah.
Right. He's a defensive back. But I liked his play.
Yep.
In the entire game. All right. Somebody else that I do want to bring up, because again, somebody got a pretty high PFF score.
Mm-hmm.
and particularly on their pass defense. Even
The
though it wasn't a
one
lot,
7th round draft pick, right?
And that
Is that what you're talking about?
That would be my friend Shannon. Oh, I lost the sign.
Yeah,
Shannon White's favorite, Mark Robinson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Top pass score on the team. On the team.
And it really
Top
can't.
coverage
Now,
score.
although he didn't have a whole lot of pass plays, but he had a really good pass
He had
score.
13 coverage snaps, according to PFF.
Here-
So that's not just
here's
one
what I
play
like.
where he made a good play. There was enough of a sample size to actually discern this.
Right. So he was on there for 13 pass plays. He had two passes thrown his way, I think, right? His guys caught
he
for
had
total of 5 yards. But it was one of those plays where I thought he was phenomenal and has made leaps and bounds improvements over last year. Okay. Steelers, zone coverage. A man comes through his zone. What Mark Robinson last year had a tendency to do was hold that guy too far. So teams would pass the guy to him. He would hold him too far, throw to the next guy through his zone, big play.
Yes.
Okay. Was not happening the other night. He was knowing when to release the man from his zone and go get the next guy into his zone. And it was good. I like, to me, it was growth. It's exactly what I'm wanting to see from the guy. Growth, improvement. Hey, you keep making plays like that, you're going to get more snaps.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's, to me, that was the key, because they just went after him in the pass game. Now, we've got to remember, yes, these are vanilla offenses and vanilla defenses. I know some people were concerned about Patrick Peterson and what he was doing. Remember what he was being asked to do. That's kind of like asking Gordon Ramsay to make hot dogs. It's he can do what makes Patrick Peterson a Hall of Fame caliber cornerback is what he can do in the complex systems. So when you're running these more basic things in the preseason, it's not like someone like that's going to stand out and shine. They could, but the fact that they don't, that's part of the reason.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Making hot dogs.
Yeah. No, I mean, really, that's what it is. So, but that leads into talking about the game coming up, because that's important. We're going to get to that, but one more quick thing. Boz, good. Press, good.
Yep.
Yeah. I liked that one last punt where he wasn't just working on a short field, still put him inside the 20 and had it high enough that his guy could get down there home to a 2-yard return. Nice play by Desmond Patrick, by the way, on that as well. So I was shocked. This, I don't know if it's really that much of a difference, but it just kind of shows you how, remember, I keep saying, you mentioned my PFF scores that report. They're not my scores, but I always say about them, remember, they are subjective. They are merely an opinion that they do while looking at each player on every play. But in preseason week 1, who was the lowest score on PFF's defense for the Steelers? Tanner Muse. Who was the highest scorer in week 2 on defense for the Steelers? Tanner Muse. Which I said he's got to show like he can do something on defense just to be the special teams guy. You can't have it's the same philosophy behind the whole Kendrick Green fullback thing. You've got to show that you're a competent offensive lineman that can make the team as a lineman in order for the team to use you as a fullback. Just like Tanner Muse still has to be, he has to at least be competent enough as depth at linebacker if he's going to make it to be a great special teams guy. He's one of those guys that's kind of on the edge for me.
On the bubble.
Well, but I would say to roll into this Atlanta, we would say there's plenty for the Steelers to play for in Atlanta. There's also a lot for the Steelers to not play for. Because we'll go ahead and say it now. Number one thing that the Steelers need to come out of Atlanta with on Thursday night is no injuries. That's what was that was the cherry on top of the last game. And then you end up having, 2 receivers that were waived injured, which was just a different story. But you want to go in with this. If you were to tell me the Steelers offense would come out and have another performance like they did at the beginning of Buffalo, but you're going to tell me about 1 or 2 injuries after the game, or you're going to tell me they could come out and the offense is going to look completely suspect, like aren't sure about the first 2 weeks, but everyone leaves unscathed, I'd take the unscathed. I really would. The Steelers' offense and defense, the ones have shown what they can do, and against a much better quality opponent this past week than what they saw the week before. This one, once again, it's the nameless gray faces that they're playing. It's just they're traveling to play them. But what was the segue? I was trying to remember. The last thing we talked about, I said that'll roll into Atlanta. It was it the Mark Robinson pass? Was it things? Bottom line is, you want to see, well, and it was Tanner Muse there as well. You want to see things that might have been a concern with an individual player come out as a strength. Mark Robinson last week is a great example of what you ultimately want to see individually from a player in the preseason, where someone was such a liability in week 18 last year in the passing game. You know, once he was put on tape with the great stuff he did against the Ravens, you know, he put it on tape. Okay. To come out there and do something else. But we still got to remember maybe French vanilla this week. You know, third preseason game, you're still going to pretty much be seeing some pretty basic offensive defense, but maybe a little bit.
No.
Just a tick more. You know, that's why I say French vanilla or vanilla bean.
No, it's going to be more likely no sugar vanilla.
No, yeah.
I think it goes the other direction.
Okay.
I really do. I think it's even less. And honestly, I'm not going to be surprised if there's some first team guys we don't see at all. And I'm okay with it, because so far, both sides of the ball, I have seen what I need to see.
Yeah.
From the first team guys, that I feel pretty good about it. So if there's somebody, you know, if they're like, you know what, maybe we don't play Kenny Pickett, or maybe we don't play, I don't know, pick somebody.
I don't want to see Kenny Pickett if you don't have at least 4 out of 5 of your starting line.
Correct. And you better have, honestly, I don't want to see Kenny Pickett unless you have all 5. If you have anybody dinged up that you're like, let's hold them out on the offensive line, then Kenny Pickett just sit out.
Mm-hmm. Especially
with the risk. Well, risk reward.
I'll tell you this: if Nate Herbig is available, and you want to rest Isaac Seumalo, I would take that. It already looks like Kevin Dotson's probably not going to play. He talked about that today. You know, or if you are talking, you know, Broderick Jones versus Dan Moore, or Broderick Jones versus Chooks, where Dan Moore kicks over.
Yeah.
I would take that. But if you're talking, oh, we're not going to play Mason Cole, we're going to play Kendrick. No, don't do that. And Spencer Anderson did get 5 snaps at center towards the end, but I didn't see those to actually try to critique those. But, you know, here we go. Aquatic Life says, you know, black and gold bubble wrap. Okay. That's kind of, but you still want to develop for the season, and they still have a lot of time. But at the same time, when the worst happens, then hindsight's 2020, and you're like, was it really worth it? But at the same time, if you don't play guys and you come out really flat in week 1 and drop a game you should win, which I don't know that the Steelers, I'm not calling week 1 a should win game for the Steelers, because that's probably one of the best teams they're going to face all season, perhaps. But in other circumstances, which one's worse? I mean, really, it's hard to judge. You don't have the crystal ball to say, oh, if only I would have known that so-and-so was going to get their ankle stepped on and it was going to bother them for the first half of the season, you know, then I'd know I wouldn't have played them. But you know what?
No, but look,
living in your fears.
Where I'm talking about it is, to me, there's certain guys. Like, honestly, Cam Hayward should come out in sweats. He's been in the league for 13 years. We know what Cam Hayward is.
Yeah.
We don't need to see him in this last preseason game. He doesn't need the tune-up.
I don't want to see Cam Hayward in sweats. I want to see him in full gear and not step on the field, because there's something that I think is more important about this game more than anything. I said it after the last game, and then other people have said it. I'm not saying because they heard it from me. That's not the case, because it's true. And that is, the Pittsburgh Steelers are one of I did all the numbers. They might be one of 2 AFC teams, but there's a number of NFC teams that have to play 2 Thursday night games this season. To me, the biggest thing for the Steelers to take out of this preseason game is to learn how to play on a quick turnaround. That's number one thing you can take. And I'm sure as soon as the schedule came out for the preseason, and which was right around the same time came out for the regular season. I mean, some of the things were TBD. Like it was a few weeks later that they actually said the day and time for this game. The Falcons had it way before the Steelers, if you looked on their website, which I thought was ironic. Well, it's their home game, no wonder. But to me, this is your chance. Hey, we're going to have to play on a Sunday and turn around and play on a Thursday. Well, this one we play on a Saturday and turn around and play on Thursday, but we're traveling for this one. So that's like having the last day. So yes, they're guys, hopefully from a preseason game aren't as beaten and bruised as they would be from a regular season game. But at least it's as much of a dress rehearsal as what you could get otherwise when the Steelers have to do this twice this season. To me, that's the number one thing. So I would like to see Cam Hayward go through all the pregame stuff. And he doesn't even have to take a snap on the field. But just to go through that routine of being ready for the next game. But they're not going to play it that way. They'll either rest him or they'll play him for one series. I don't know. What else do you think that the Steelers have to play for in this game?
The Steelers have to play. The Steelers have to play for this game. No injuries, and then I still look at what I want to say. Continued. What I want to say, execution as position groups.
Okay.
So your offensive line working cohesively, your wide receivers, everybody running the routes they're supposed to be running where they're, no breakdowns in that. And really that's what I'd say, lack of breakdown, communications and things. I don't want to see communication breakdowns in the secondary. I don't want to say that I don't want to see a play because plays can happen, but I don't want to see a big play made because there was miscommunication and 2 guys bite in and we leave somebody run free behind the defense. We haven't seen those kinds of things so far, and there's no reason to start doing those kinds of things now. Keep it clean. I want to see another game with very few penalties.
Yeah,
I mean,
4.
You can't ask.
Last week.
Right, 4. And what were they, 5 in the first game? I mean, the Steelers,
either 5 or 6. Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah,
I should know.
Their number of penalties so far is like way better than what you see out of a lot of teams in the preseason, and that's great. Let's keep that going.
Yes,
clean football.
Yeah, clean football. Now, see, we're talking about not seeing starters. Remember, 3rd preseason game last year. That's when the starters played the longest. But we're also talking about a time where there was a quarterback competition. So we don't know how much that changes everything. You don't want to see the first team offense, quote unquote, let down. I'm sorry. I'm calling it now. The first team offense is going to have a letdown in this preseason game. Statistically, it's just too difficult to not. They have 3 drives and 3 touchdowns in 2 games. I don't think anything is going to be less. I joked about how Kenny Pickett's quarterback rating plummeted from, what was it, 149.7 to 149.0. Something like that.
I think it was
0.7 was the only difference of it.
140. Yeah.
So,
crazy.
which no, that's different. But I don't expect the Steelers offense to come out here and whether it's 1 drive, 2 drives, I wouldn't even be shocked if they have them out there 3 drives. I am not expecting a touchdown on each drive. It's an unreasonable expectation. So you're going to feel like it's a letdown from the last game and the game before. I understand, but you got to prepare for that. But I still want to see them execute. I don't want to see them I don't want to see a 3 and out, and I don't want to see 3 punts if they're out there 3 drives. And I'm not saying they will be 3 drives, but that's if they're out there 1 drive and it ends in a punt, just it's going to be what it's going to be. It's still going to be a good quality preseason for the first unit, most likely. Unless you go out there and play sloppy, have a penalty, give up a sack, and then end up with a turnover. I'm not going that far. I'm just saying that what they've done so far is almost a near impossible pace for that first team to keep up with. So what I'm going to look at, I want to see more than anything, what I think is good to play for in this game. Splash plays are phenomenal, and I would love to see the Steelers get a bunch more. But I want to see them scoring points without splash. I want to see a drive set up not by a takeaway that takes, like the first drive, the first game. What was it? 10 plays? Something like that. Great stuff. So there's things to play for to show just that you can you can face whatever situation you're handled. Or handled. What am I saying?
I don't know. What are you saying?
I don't know what I'm saying. I got to say, time to wrap it up. We're to the end. I am completely exhausted right now because I got to give a special shout out. Today is my youngest son's 8th birthday. So it's been a crazy day here in this Schofield household. He earlier on the phone, he even got a happy birthday song from his grandparents and his Uncle Rich, which was fantastic. And Kyle.
And Kyle.
And Kyle. I didn't know if he actually participated. I know he was there.
Kyle actually sang the happy birthday, which Kyle's not one to sing.
Yeah.
He actually sang the happy birthday to Garrett. So.
But I'm exhausted because we spent the day at the zoo. And I hiked up and down hills and everything. I'm just tired. It's not bad. We had a blast. I'm just tired now. So I don't want the Steelers to be tired on Thursday. Rich, we're going to have a long layoff without Steelers football. My goodness. You're talking the 24th of August to the, is it 10th of September? I think it's the 10th of September.
10. Yes, 10.
Yes. Yeah. That's crazy. So
sorry, had to figure it out. I figured that out based on the first day of
first day of postseason.
The first day of postseason was the 8th, which is a Friday. So
it's so there's plenty for the Steelers to play for, but once again, they don't have to win this game. They really don't. Although someone said they need to do it for Miles Boykin because that guy's never lost a preseason game.
That's hilarious.
He was
now instead of it being a Ravens record, now it's
a Miles Boykin record.
One person.
Yeah. If he's with your team, you're going to win preseason games. He's the anti-Chase Claypool of last year, who personally went 2-15. So, all right. Although it's not important whether or not they win this game, that's what we do. Rich, give us your score.
All right. Ready? Just for fun. All right. Okay. There's going to be a lot of leg in this game. 18-15 Steelers.
18-15. You know what? I'm going to give a score. You know why? Because, well, first of all, there's not going to be a Steelers preview because there's just going to be a Steelers post-game show Thursday night in its place. It's the preseason. We didn't want to shift everything around. So we'll still have our regular show. It'll just be later. And we haven't been doing predictions on there anyway. So I'm going to give you one. You ready?
Yes.
27-13.
There you go.
The reason I'm going 27-13, everyone else get your scores ready to go in there. If you don't say the team, we're going to assume Steelers. Why? Because let's look at the pattern. Steelers have gone 27-27. We'll keep that up. They went 17-15. We'll go 13.
Okay.
That's my philosophy. We'll go 27-13. So throw your scores in here.
Mathematical on the pattern.
Yep, going mathematical on the pattern. We're going to throw them out here quick. Before we roll out of here, Kathy Forrid, who Rich got to meet Kathy Afton after the game.
Yep, I did, and that was fantastic. It was so nice to see them. So, that was awesome.
You were wearing your great Steel Curd Network shirt. They found you. You even went to their seats before the game, but they were doing the Franco Harris ceremony is where they were. I'm just glad you caught up with them. There's Kathy. She says 27-12. Steel Dog 88 says 27-13. Hey, we got the same score. I'm sure he typed it in there before I said mine because people were getting ready. And there's Afton says 28-14. Steeler Chick 46 is going 27-14. Reginald Rivers says 27-20. Brian Brett. Whoa, hold on. Everything just went away for me for a minute because you all have crazy scores in here. Brian Brown says 2-0 Steelers. Okay. Sean Manahan says 27-13 Steelers. Christopher 11 says 28-10. Gavin Anthony, I think I said it right this time. Steelers 21-13. Quentin Shelby 20-10. Okay. Gene Smith says 24-13. What we should know, we should have thrown it off and said what's the score at the end of the third quarter. That would have really got people. George says 27-16 Steelers. Gabriel Golden says 23-21 Atlanta. Maybe you listened to my stat geek a couple weeks ago and how last year 3-0 didn't work out too well for people. Jeremiah Yoder said 31-7 Steelers. C. Brown. Did I say that right? 31-7? You gave a roar. Nice. C. Brown says 24-13. Carrie says 21-14 Steelers. Pedro says 21-9. Can you get that one?
We voted for you.
We voted for you? Yep.
Yes, we voted for Pedro.
Okay. Pittsburgh Toddy says 23-9 Steelers. Afton says, I'm going to throw it up here, said it was great meeting Big Bro and his lovely wife. Who were you there with? I just know your wife. I don't know your lovely wife.
My lovely wife.
No, I'm kidding.
She'll get you on that later, I'm sure.
Yeah. You must have taken your other wife. Sorry.
No text message for you.
I could help myself. Sherry Richards, 30-16. That would be nice. That hitting that 30. I mean, I know she's not the first one that said it, but I'm just thinking that. I mean, Dennis C says 30-10 Steelers. Mr. Woodside has 17-16 Steelers. I like Claude's. I'll go with this one. 35-0 black and gold. How big of a preseason would that be? That would be fantastic. Okay, Alex Flores says 23-17 Steelers. Sean Manahan says end of third, 27-10 Steelers. Jennifer, I can't say your last name properly, 27-3 Steelers. Mm-hmm. She's said it so many times, and then
like PT Cruiser.
That's right, Cruiser. Okay, but then I second guess it. That gets me every time. Richard Adamson, 17-14. Jerry Cherry, 19-5. Yeah, let's go. Let's go with the awkward. Okay. Daniel Red says 26-17. And I think, I think I got one more.
Yep.
Is that Nobe 412?
Sure.
30-15 Steelers. Rich?
Yeah.
This is our last show before the end of the preseason. Yes. That we will no longer
talking about practice.
We'll be talking about the real deal. So, we got another one. Just throw it up there. Lifelong fan, 07, 21-0 Steelers. There we are. I'm excited for the preseason to be over because that means you get to the real season. I'm not big on that lull, but you know what? Before we know it, it'll be done. Get the team rested up, ready to go for the regular season. Make sure you're checking out all of our podcasts. As I said, we won't have a Steelers preview, only a post-game show Thursday night after the game. Other than that, you should be looking at the same schedule, I do believe, through then. For those who were asking, hey, where's the week that was been with Dave and Brian? When the Steelers play a game, it's really hard to talk about their off day on Monday like it's something big and important when they played a game. So that's when we'll probably maybe make one last comeback for that show when there's the week there is no game and things of that nature. Perhaps we're tinkering with that, but that show gets replaced in the regular season by the last minute thought show that I'll be doing. So make sure you're checking out all our shows. Other than that, the lineup should be the same. And steelcurtainnetwork.com. We got lots of great content coming there. Make sure you're checking it out. Check out the store. Where did it go? I didn't have it up here. If you went to the SCN store at itemorder.com, if you could see my lovely Steel Curtain Network shirt. Rich, what do you have to say to close us out here tonight?
All right, close this out. First thing I want to say, it was so awesome to be back in stadium for football. I mean, that's what I love. Going to training camp is, okay. But I love being in stadium for football. It was great to be there. Good start by the Steelers. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. Everything seems to be moving the right direction. Keep the needle moving in the right direction. That's what I'm looking for this week from the Steelers. Keep the needle moving in the right direction. Less than 48 hours. Sitting on my couch. Watching the game right to the knee jerk. Can't wait.